All right, check this out. Let's say I told you NBA Youngboy was shooting a music video, and in that video, he can be seen holding a 9mm and a 45. That'd be crazy, right? No? That sounds average? You're right. That sounds like a very typical NBA Youngboy video. That sounds like exactly what you would expect to see in an NBA Youngboy video. But if you were a member of the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, law enforcement in Louisiana, and you saw that video, guess what? You think it's a very big deal. So big, in fact, that you might go and arrest him. And you might charge him with multiple federal crimes that carry with them penalties of 5, 10 years, and even more. Well, that's exactly what happened. This is exactly what happened to NBA Youngboy. Cops learned that at a music video, and they believe based on their investigation that this guy was holding a 45 and he was holding a 9. They're like, we're going to arrest him and we're going to charge him with 4 federal crimes, carrying with it max sentences of ranging up to 10 years. Wow. Unbelievable. Okay. So on Tuesday, he's driving through Los Angeles and the LAPD and the FBI are out to arrest him. They got a warrant for his arrest for possessing these guns. They try to pull him over. According to the cops, we'll find out how true this really is. According to the cops, the car he's in takes off. And then when it takes off, eventually it stops, and then he runs out the car, and then he goes to try to hide somewhere around the vicinity. And then the cops lock down the area. It's crazy stuff, according to the cop. They lock down the area. They bring in the K9 unit. The dogs are sniffing around. They sniff out Youngboy. They slap the cuffs on him. Boom, he's arrested. Okay, here's what the first thing you got to understand about this situation is. NBA Youngboy has a prior felony conviction. He was charged and convicted of assault with a deadly weapon. We'll talk about what that charge was in a second. It's a crazy story also. But because he's a felon, it's illegal under the federal laws for him to have a gun. And the way the federal laws work is it's like really illegal. Like, it's really serious. They start throwing really big, long potential prison sentences at you for having this gun. Now, on top of that, the way the prosecutors are able to charge under the law, he didn't just hold one gun. They say he held 2, so that's 2 charges. And they say these weren't regular guns. These guns had a little grip on them. It helps it make it sort of more of a deadly weapon. And under the federal laws, that type of grip has to be put into a special registration. Whoever's gun this was, it wasn't specially registered. So you have guns that were legally purchased. The licensed owner has them. He's there. Guy gives it to Youngboy. Youngboy holds it, allegedly. And from there, just that little thing happening, the grip was legally purchased and the grip was legal. Just that little thing happening, Youngboy holding these guns, and he's a felon under the federal laws. He's now facing 4 separate charges. Each one of them carries max sentences of up to 10 years. Unbelievable stuff. Now, as soon as I heard about these charges, the first thing that I thought of is, okay, he could defend these charges. You could definitely go to a judge and say, Judge, look at this. Look at what happened here. This kid didn't know. He didn't mean to do it. He thought this was all kosher. And a judge might even listen to that, and he might be receptive to that. He might say, you know, there are minimum sentencing guidelines, but given the unique nature of this case and given that the defendant has accepted responsibility, maybe he pleads guilty. You know, you could work with this case. But there's one big thing that you got to have. You got to get a bond. Here's why. If you want to fight these charges, you want to go and make arguments, you want to submit motions, you want to make appeal, you want to do all that, you can do all that if you're out on bond. If you don't get a bond, what's a bond? A bond means that you put up some money, you put up a house, you put an ankle monitor, and they let you out while your court case is going on. Okay, so if you get that bond, then you're out. Youngboy got a lot of kids, and he got a big buzz. He needs to be out making music, feeding his family. So he gets that bond, he can do that, and he lets his lawyers go to work. File all the motions you can. Get all the investigation going you can. However, if you don't get that bond, what are you really looking at? The money stops. You're not making money. You can't be with your kids. You can't be around your people. You're locked up in jail. And you know how long a trial could take, especially right now with COVID, jury's not coming in, everything backed up. Shit, you'd be waiting for a year, maybe 2 years, maybe longer for a trial. And then if you lose that trial and you're counting on an appeal, you're sitting in there pending appeal. You might end up doing 4 or 5 years. And then you ask yourself, man, I should have just taken 5 years if they were giving it to me in the beginning. So when I first heard about these charges, I thought to myself, this guy's got to get a bond. He's got to get a bond. He was arrested on Tuesday. And the whole week, myself and everybody else in the community, rap community interested in this case, looking for what's going on with that bond. Today, Friday, it's the end of the week right now as we're recording this podcast, we got the word on the bond. And it's a very interesting situation. So what happened with Youngboy's bond? Well, he got it. A California judge granted a bond. It was a very, very big bond. Now, when a judge grants a bond, they ask themselves two things. One, what conditions can I put to make sure this guy comes back, right? So, having him put money up, having him pledge assets, putting an ankle monitor on, make sure he comes back. And then two, if I let him out, is he going to go off committing more crimes? Is he so dangerous, so violent that we can't let this guy out? In Youngboy's case, the judge looked at it and he said, all right, look, I don't think that he's such a big risk to go around shooting people. The lawyer probably made some good arguments. Hey, this kid was shot at last year in Miami. His security returned fire. He had legal guns on him at that time. Similar situation. He's just around guns. They're not his. He doesn't know what he can touch, what he can't touch. So I could see a judge going, this guy's not a danger to the community. I can let him out. But what about, is he going to come back? So on whether or not he would come back, the judge had him put up a lot of money, a lot of assets, a lot of collateral. NBA Youngboy put up $500,000 in cash. This was not a situation where you put up like 10% of it. This was $500K straight cash. And he pledged 2 houses. Total, these 2 houses together were worth at least $1.5 million. And he put that up as the collateral. The judge said, all right, those 2 things plus an ankle monitor, you're good, you're out on bond. But what happened is the judge said, I'm going to put a 48-hour hold on this. So for the next 48 hours, the government can go ahead and try to appeal this decision or go ask the judge in Louisiana whatever they want to do before this decision becomes final. And in fact, that's exactly what the government did. The government said, hang on, you're in California, but we want to make an appeal to this judge in Louisiana, and we want to ask him whether or not Youngboy should get out on bond. So what did the California judge say? California judge said, all right, you know what? I put things on hold for 2 days. I'm going to go ahead and put it on hold for a week. So for 1 week, this guy can't get out on bond. And in that 1 week's time, I expect you to go to Louisiana, and I expect the judge in Louisiana to make a decision. Now, this upcoming Tuesday, March 30th, the judge in the federal court sitting in the Middle District of Louisiana is expected to rule. Will he, A, uphold the judge in California's decision and say, you know what? That judge in California had it right. $500,000 cash, $1.5 million with the houses, the ankle monitor, he's good. Or will the judge do choice B, say, you know what? We should up the conditions. $500,000 isn't enough. We need $1 million. 2 houses worth 1.5 isn't enough. We need even more. And ankle, you got the ankle monitor on, but we also have to place some restrictions. So you got the monitor on and you can't leave your crib. Or he might go choice C. He might say, you know what? This kid's too dangerous, or it's too risky that this kid's going to run. No bond. If that happens, oh my God, Youngboy fans are going to go crazy. And by the way, Youngboy fans are different. They're the most rabid fan base that I've ever seen in hip hop. Shout out to Youngboy fans. Free top toes backwards. So check this out. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think a judge in Louisiana has to let him out on bond. Here's why. That judge in Louisiana is looking at the exact same situation that the judge in California was looking at. That judge in Louisiana is making a decision applying the exact same law of the federal government, of the United States federal code that the judge in California was applying. Now, to be sure, there's some variation in the way each state, each judicial circuit will interpret and apply these laws, but the law should be uniformly applied. Judges in, sitting in different jurisdictions should be looking at the same facts and the same constitutional rights of people and coming to the same decisions. So if the judge in California said that, with some money, with some collateral, with some monitoring, we can let him out, I fully expect a judge in Louisiana to say, yeah, we can let him out. Maybe he ups the conditions, but to say that this guy can't get a bond after a judge in Cali said he could get a bond, that would be shocking. Here's the thing. If he gets out on bond, he's got a lot of defenses. Lots and lots of defenses he's going to be able to make. He's got to get the bond, though. You want to make those defenses while you're on the outside. All right, here, one defense. Hey, I didn't even know the guns were real. My man bought them. I figured he bought the prop guns. Another defense. Hey, I didn't know I couldn't just hold the gun for a music video. My lawyer said, yo, you can't possess any weapons. But I thought that meant I can't actually have my own gun on me and be out in public. This is different. I was on a set. I was on a music video set. I was just taking a picture. I didn't know. The arguments are there. There's technical arguments you can make on the law by saying, you know what, when the handle is on, that doesn't actually qualify under the federal statutes. This isn't an altered gun that needs to be registered. Lots of arguments you can make, but you got to understand how the federal court system works. You're sitting there, you're looking at it, you got these charges, and the prosecutor's looking at you and saying, hey, look, you could plead guilty, accept responsibility, not contest these charges. You get 5 years, with some good time served. You do a drug rehabilitation program, you'll be out in 3.5. Or you got to fight these charges. It's going to take 2 years, maybe 3. You're going to be sitting in jail the whole time. And at the end of it, you might still lose. This is why the bond is so important. The good news for Youngboy is that California judge already said yes on the bond. I thought, and I actually think the cops may have been lying or they may have been exaggerating exactly what happened. But I thought, and remember what the cops said. The cops said, we tried pulling this guy over. His car fled. Then he ran out of the car. Then he tried hiding. And we had to get the canine to come sniff him out. Oh, and also the cops said, the car that he ran out of, there was a gun in there. When I heard that, I was like, oh, snap, this guy's never going to get a bond. I think the cops may have been exaggerating. I think they may have been blowing things up a little out of proportion. It probably didn't go down exactly the way the reports seemed because the judge, if a judge saw all that and maybe if that gun was in there and they charged him with, again, possessing another illegal firearm, if his fingerprints were on it, that'd be a huge deal. There'd be more charges. The fact that he got the bond from the California judge tells me that I think the cops were wildly exaggerating. Those reports were not correct. Now, the fact that he got that California bond, will it get upheld? Look, a lot of people are going to look at this and say, NBA Youngboy, man, forget that guy. He's had so many chances. He signed his big record deal. The next day, he's out in a shootout in the streets. And then he actually gets charged with murder. He gets a second chance. They put him on probation. They don't have him serve time. And then he violated probation. He's out there getting into fights with fans. He was seen on video dragging a woman out of a hotel room. He's still taking these pictures with guns. This kid never learns his lesson. They should throw the book at him. That's what a lot of the cynics will say. But you know what I say to those cynics? Man, I don't think y'all understand what the hell is going on. I don't think you guys realize how obsessed the media, the commentators, the fans, the world is with rappers and controversy. And I don't think you guys understand the mindset of a rapper. You see, I don't think that rappers always think that what they're doing is wrong. I don't think rappers think they need to change or fix their life, not the successful ones. These days, the most successful rappers seem to have the biggest rap sheets, right? I mean, just look at it. Kodak Black. Right now, one of the hottest rappers is Pooh Shiesty. Right before Pooh caught his buzz, he caught a charge. Pop Smoke, before he passed away, R.I.P., he was catching charges. He was being investigated for gang activity. The most notorious, Tekashi 6ix9ine, an objectively bad rapper, but wild buzz. How? From hanging out with real-life gangsters. I don't think we appreciate that as fans, as the rap community, we are glorifying criminals. We're glorifying criminality. And when you glorify something, how is somebody supposed to look at that and say, I should change? See, if you glorified me for being a criminal, I might double down on being a criminal. If every time I got involved in a shooting, I get arrested and I catch charges, but my buzz goes up, and eventually I find myself back out on the street and now I'm buzzing some more, it's going to be really hard for me to change, to get my life together. I don't think NBA Youngboy is a bad person. I do think the culture of hip hop is toxic. I think when NBA Youngboy does something that's crazy, when he flashes a gun, when he flashes a gang sign, I think we glorify it. I think we say, yeah, that's what's up. I wish I was doing that. And so if you're asking yourself, why doesn't Youngboy change? Why would he? Because everything he's doing is working. Everything he's doing is hitting. Yeah, he's facing federal charges, but it's all part of the game. You got to break some eggs to make an omelet. I mean, there's a million cliches I could use, but at the end of the day, it's not broke. Why is he going to fix it? Crazy, crazy story. We're going to see what's going to happen here with NBA Youngboy. His bond is coming up this Tuesday. The judge in Louisiana, March 30th, is expected to hear that decision. If he's out, I expect fully well that he's going to fight these charges. I think what my prediction is in this case is he's going to fight them. His lawyer's going to make a bunch of arguments, and the feds will roll back the charges a little bit. Hopefully you see him get a sentence of something like 3 to 5 years with good time, with a drug rehabilitation program. Maybe he gets out in the next year or two, but he's absolutely going to face some jail time. And the question will be, will he even care? So what do we expect to happen in this case? I think this Tuesday, the judge in Louisiana is going to give him a bond. He might up the conditions. He might make him put up a little more money. He might say that he's on house arrest. But ultimately, I think he gives him the bond. Once Youngboy gets that bond, I think his lawyers are going to go to work. And I think they'll make a lot of good arguments that this kid, he doesn't have the mens rea, what they call the criminal culpability. He didn't know these were he didn't know these were real guns. Maybe that's the argument. He thought they were prop guns. Or maybe he says, he didn't know he couldn't flash the gun in a music video. He knew he couldn't possess it, but he thought that meant walk around. So I think they'll make those arguments. I think they'll also make technical legal arguments, arguing that the handles, the grips that were put on these guns don't qualify them as restricted weapons under the statute, and so those charges should just get dropped. I think ultimately, though, it is very hard to beat federal charges, and, we'll see if his lawyers do a good job, which I'm sure they will because he's got a lot of money, he's got good lawyers. My prediction would be that he ends up pleading guilty, accepting responsibility, explaining that he didn't know, he was just doing it for the purpose of a music video. And then I expect the government to recommend a sentence below the federal sentencing guidelines, maybe something like 3 years or 4 years, with the programs that are available. So if you get arrested and sentenced in federal court, you can take part in rehabilitation programs while you're in prison, and you can get time off your sentence for that. You can also be a model prisoner, don't have any write-ups against you, don't get into any violations in prison, and so then you get some time off for good time. On a 3-year sentence, if he takes advantage of all those programs, he could maybe knock it down and get out closer to 2 years. Bottom line, I do think NBA Youngboy will do some time. I think when the feds charge you with possession of a weapon, felon in possession like they have here, they're going to have some pretty solid evidence, probably the gun with your fingerprints on it. And a lot of times, that's all they're really going to need. We'll see what happens. And if it happens exactly like I said, Youngboy finds himself out in 2.5 years. His buzz is hot as ever. He comes out to, the type of fanfare that we just saw Bobby Shmurda come out to, and he's back on top of the rap game. The question I'll be asking is, NBA Youngboy, looking back on it, was this arrest even a bad move? Do you even care? Or is it all just part of the game?